Sutra. Good afternoon, everyone. There will be no students left behind here at the Buddhist Temple of Toledo. So, yeah, this feeling of being together and staying close to one another, so utterly important. We're giving each other so much Dharma information is passing from one person to the next. And your practice is feeding the practice of the people around you. And the closer we can be, the better. Remember, in the old temple, there wasn't that much space, so the cushions were all like literally jammed up next to each other, and you'd be sitting and your knees would be touching your neighbor's knees. I rather liked that. And then we had COVID and this larger space, so perhaps one day when we get to having a lot more people, we'll go back to touching each other's knees. So, we're carrying on today with our grimoire. This is our book of anti-spells, antidotes to all of the spells and benightedness cast by samsara. And we're on antidote 17 this afternoon. I do have some formulas in here, so I have to check it. So, it's so interesting because this koan is so much about moving and dancing and being in the Dharma together. I cite the case. The national teacher's 3 calls. The national teacher called his attendant 3 times. And 3 times his attendant responded. The national teacher said, "I thought I was standing alone with my back to you, but now I find that you are standing alone with your back to me." Now, just on first hearing that, it's like, Sensei, you were just talking about everybody being so close and so together, and this koan is about people putting their backs to one another, being all alone. What's going on here? Mumon's commentary. The national teacher called 3 times, and his tongue dropped to the ground. The attendant responded 3 times, emitting the answer with light. The national teacher was old and lonely. He held the cow's head and forced it to eat grass. The attendant would have none of it. Delicious food has little attraction for a person who has had enough to eat. Just tell me, where are they standing alone with their backs to each other? When the country is prosperous, persons of talent are esteemed. Children of rich families are too proud to eat this plain food. The verse, we must carry an iron yoke with no hole. It is not a slight matter. The curse is passed on to our descendants. If you want to support the gate and sustain the house, you must climb a mountain of swords with bare feet. So a lot going on here, right? Let's try to take it step by step and see what we see. I need more desk space. Okay, I'm going to do it this way. Okay. So the case is so simple. It's almost like, how could that even be a koan other than the last part, which seems a little strange. But actually, it's the first part that's the most interesting. The national teacher called his attendant 3 times, and 3 times his attendant responded. So it would have been something like this. Tensen, yes? Tensen, yes? Tensen, yes? And in that exchange, there was a total meeting of the Dharma. Nothing at all was hidden. All was completely revealed. There were no secrets. When I first read this koan, I thought about, I don't know why, being at those diners when the cook is like, table 23, order up. And then immediately the person who's waiting at the tables runs to get the food. There's something about the life and the presence of the teacher. That's kind of what you're studying. You're studying the enlightened, energetic signature, if you will, of the teacher that can't actually be described. And what's crazy is that the teacher makes mistakes all the time. And the teacher says dumb stuff a lot, right? I've done it several times in the last day. I mean, I've had to purify my my actions maybe many times in the past 24 hours. sad to say, I'm really not a good example of this, but the national teacher was a good example of this. But maybe this thing that we're studying goes beyond making mistakes and getting it right. Goes beyond not being a bitch and being a bitch, right? And at the same time, we don't want to create more negative karma, right? So as soon as that twisted conditioning comes up, it gets dealt with. But the whole thing arises in this field of total entrustment, total brightness, total clarity, total edgelessness, boundlessness. So sometimes the teacher appears, and sometimes the teacher disappears. And there's this sort of weird tracelessness to that, right? This is like a completely mysterious, very rare in the world expression of reality. This is what we're studying. This is the gate and the house that we live in. So you have koans like talking about screaming and yelling, right? And you have to answer that in accordance with the purity of this life. Because anything less, you're caught up in a web of confusion, deception, blame game, denial, lying, making up stories. If you can actually experience the entire catastrophe of the life that you are as the field of the Buddha, as arising from, in, around, and with that field of the Buddha, then you are able to heal your heart and heal the hearts of those around you. And that's the Bodhisattva vow. Okay? So when the teacher called Tenzin, it was like the boundless, pure heart of reality, of wisdom, of being, is speaking, right? And then when Tenzin says, yes, the boundless, pure heart of reality is responding. And what we're practicing together on the cushion is how to experience that directly in our own heart-mind. This is the reason for practice. And bodhisattvas can metabolize tremendous amounts of confusion, ill will, anger, hatred, greed, whatever is arising, the bodhisattva, because they're so in contact with that boundless, pure field of reality, it's actually food for our awakening, rather than creating more chaos and more ill will. You know, sometimes it takes a little while to process it. It's nice when it happens like boom, 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 but you know, we're human, right? But that field never, ever leaves. It is completely, totally, utterly reliable. And we are practicing how to rest in that field, how to express as that field. Do you understand? So the national teacher called their attendant 3 times, and 3 times the attendant answered. There was this complete mutual arising of this boundless, warm-hearted field of total trust, calling and responding to each other. Honestly, when you're working on a koan, that's what you're working on. You are showing how your heart-mind is so settled into and so saturated with this boundless field of warm-hearted, non-dual awareness that it's quite easy to respond to the koan. No fear in your heart. No second guessing. And there was no second guessing there. It is said that this particular koan is about transmission. Isn't that interesting? So what the teacher is looking for is that seamless tomb, right? That seamless one body of the Buddha arising as you and as me, and leaves and trees and rocks and blah, 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 floors and tiles and the whole mishigas. The national teacher said, "I thought I was standing alone with my back to you. Now I find that you are standing alone with your back to me." So there was this mutual recognition, okay? We are the same. We have the same heart-mind. And this standing alone has everything to do with recognizing that we are the one body of the Buddha, right? So let's look at Mumon's commentary. The national teacher called 3 times, and his tongue dropped to the ground. Isn't that lovely? His tongue dropped to the ground. I rather liked that. This means he was talking a little bit too much. But I prefer to think of it like literally, like his tongue dropped to the ground. It was a long, broad tongue of the Buddha or something. And when I first read this, I thought, yeah, there's that tongue on the ground, the long, broad tongue of the Buddha, and we're all walking up the tongue. It's a bridge. We're walking into the very heart mind of the national teacher. So do with that what you will, but I thought it made me happy. Rather than, oh, he was just talking too much. The attendant responded 3 times, emitting the answer with light. So this emitting the answer with light, that's it. It's almost like with practice, whatever obstacles there are to us emitting our answers with light get eroded, okay? But the crazy thing is, we don't know anything about it. And we can't actually see our own light. It's like you can't actually, you'll never see your own face. You'll always see it in the mirror, but you'll actually know. Everybody else sees your face, but you, kind of. And, so many times, people will come into Dokusan, oh, I'm stuck. And actually, what we're seeing is like, oh, that erosion of the obstacles and the darkening of their light. Great. This is great news. Keep being stuck, right? Because the whole process is completely mysterious. Completely mysterious. And it takes as long as it takes. And remember, the Dharma, wonderful at the beginning, wonderful in the middle, wonderful at the end. So don't worry about it. Enjoy it, right? And the key is, even being stuck is not separate from this great light. I may not be consciously getting it, but make no mistake, it is there, okay? And when you come into Dokusan, that's what we see. We see that light. We see your Buddhahood, which is why we can put up with you over and over and over again. It doesn't matter what you throw at us. We kind of don't care. Because we trust you. Because we trusted ourselves. Right? Okay. The national teacher was old and lonely. So he was getting ready to transmit the Dharma. He held the cow's head and forced it to eat grass. So he was really checking on his student. Is there more that needs to be done here? Right? And the student was having none of it. So as soon as he saw that the student was standing on their own hooves, so to speak, right? And knew that they had had enough, knew that they were enough, right? Knew that the Buddha was speaking to the Buddha. That's when the teacher knew, oh, okay, this is a descendant in front of me. Delicious food has little attraction for a man who has had enough to eat. Just tell me, where are they standing alone with their backs to each other? Where are you standing alone with your backs to each other? I think I know. I think you know too. Except for you're not standing, you're sitting, right? Right here. Right here. And it doesn't matter if you have your back to each other or your front to each other. When the country is prosperous, persons of talent are esteemed. Children of rich families are too proud to eat plain food. So the country is prosperous. You are prosperous. You are the richness of the Buddha nature. Can you just relax into that? Can you trust that, regardless of what's arising? Please, trust that, regardless of what's arising. Because remember, as bodhisattvas, we've taken this vow to heal the suffering of the world. So guess what? When you take that vow, here comes the suffering, boom, 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 lining up, right? Of course, because it's begging to be healed and begging to be released. So when somebody steps up and says, I got you, so don't be surprised by the suffering, right? Don't be surprised at all. You've made this vow to open your heart to the suffering of yourself and others. And because you are totally trusting this field of benefaction, this formless field of benefaction, you got it. You can handle it. You can metabolize it. We must carry an iron yoke with no hole. It is not a slight matter. The curse is passed on to our descendants. You are all in a cursed place. If you want to support the gate and sustain the house, you must climb a mountain of swords with bare feet. Did you really think that it would be any less? Right? Of course it's like that. We're in this human, topsy-turvy, crazy, pain-ridden realm. So this iron yoke with no hole. So, when the prisoners, when they wanted to stop them, they would put this huge iron yoke collar on their shoulders and lock it up so they couldn't move and that whole thing. So it's not enough just to have this iron yoke on your shoulders. This thing has got no hole. Completely, wildly impossible. No way to strategize yourself into realizing your Buddhahood. For some, that's good news. For others, that's really painful. Why is it that you can't strategize yourself into your Buddhahood, realizing your Buddhahood? Because no matter what you do, no matter what strategy you use, it is the Buddha arising. You're already it, right? You're already a field of unconditional love, already a field of unconditional compassion. Already a field of total prajna wisdom, understanding the true nature of reality, how things function. But that understanding and that, it's not just your conscious behavior, right? It's that energetic signature that I was talking about earlier. And we know, even just sitting together with each other quietly and closely, right? You just totally fall in love with each other, right? I mean, everybody's so beautiful. And that's just the surface of it. We must carry an iron yoke with no hole. So, do we really have a choice? I mean, once those hounds of heaven start nipping at your heel, you cannot outrun them. And they will not stop. So, we're all walking around with this iron yoke with no hole on our shoulders. It's not a slight matter, right? So the conditioning runs really, really deep. Really deep. Why is it important to see into the Dharmakaya, to see into the Absolute? Because when you see that nothing is fixed. Nothing is solid. All of the conditioning is conditioned, right? And when you know that in yourselves, and you're working with your conditioning, now you're driving the really nice car, right? It's like you've got so much energy boost. The only thing you need is sincerity and the vow to keep turning toward, not to turn away. It's not a slight matter. The curse is passed down to our descendants. And it is kind of a curse because, God, you can't get away from it. Once you start practicing in earnest, it won't stop. Even if you say, I'm kind of done now, I want to take a break, I want to take a vacation. Try taking a vacation after you've been practicing for a while. You're still practicing on vacation. If you want to support the gate and sustain the house, so if you want to be the best, most awesome bodhisattva that you can, you must climb a mountain of swords with bare feet. And here's the thing. You do not have to import those swords. Those swords are already in your mind, right? Those swords are already everywhere, right? To be willing to walk across them in naked awareness, in naked presence, in bare feet, with your heart ripped open, without any strategy. It sounds daunting, but it's the most beautiful thing. Because honestly, if you don't walk across them, they're still going to be there. It's said that the Dharma, gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhiswaha, it's gone, gone, gone to the other shore. So you've walked across those swords. And everybody has them. It's not like you're special or I'm special that I have like an extra couple of million swords, right? We all have them. But the Dharma is what protects us and gives us the power, the capacity to walk right over those swords. And remember, when the Buddha was sitting under that tree, Mara was like coming at him with all kinds of flaming arrows, everything, boom, 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 boom. And right before they touched the Buddha, they all turned into flowers. So that sword is not separate from our Buddha nature. The pain is not separate from Buddha nature. The bareness, the rawness is not separate. So I hope everybody walks across a lot of swords this retreat and actually gets very, very intimate with what that actually feels like. Because I guarantee when you're actually in the middle of it, it's something other than we would imagine it would be like. And we all know that's true, right? When you're in the middle of a total catastrophe, it's not quite what we imagined. And that healing grace, that saving grace, is always, always there. So, lots to explore in this koan of just simply calling and responding. Please take it up.
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I